Cult of the Lamb was a fun time but prioritized style over substance. While beautiful, dungeons felt bare bones, and the amount of different moves you could do to combat enemies was pretty limited. I made a video on how even with updates, Cult of the Lamb wouldn't be able to fix some of its problems because its design flaws were so interwoven into the game. But sometimes being proven wrong is nice because for the most part, Cult of the Lamb Relics of the Old Faith does a fantastic job of righting its own wrongs, adding more variety, attacks, and post-ending content to the game. Biomes now have area-specific obstacles like rivers and swinging axes. The enemy and mini-boss roster has been expanded substantially, as has the different armors, tarot cards, and follower types. Even the bosses have new transformations after you beat the main quest. But perhaps the most immediately obvious new addition is the inclusion of heavy weapon attacks, which I was pleased to see didn't feel tacked on or hastily added just to give the illusion of more depth. Before, your arsenal consisted only of your normal attack and a spell that you could cast provided you have magic. The amount of stuff you're able to do now has been bolstered somewhat. All weapon types have a new move that use a tiny bit of your mana bar in exchange for a heavily damaging attack. You won't be pulling off giant lengthy combos or anything, but that's not the point. It's all situational. There will legit be times where you'll feel more inclined to use your axe's new throw attack instead of its normal one, as if it had been included in the game all along. Same goes for the sword smash attack and the raining daggers. These new additions don't transform Cult of the Lamb into a character action game, but it does add a depth to fights that makes it a lot less shallow than it was on release. A good portion of that depth isn't just from added attacks though. The new enemies do a great job of forcing you to change how you approach certain rooms. There are spiders that spew poison, jellyfish-like enemies that bump into each other when struck, and cultists that wield shields, forcing you to change up your attack style. Some of the best games out there overlook how important it is to have enemy variety, and while Lamb didn't have it at first, it really shows how much the developers wanted to amend things, that they basically uprooted how most of the fights in the game flowed just to get things in a better spot. Relics are also a thing now. These are use items that are either rechargeable or one-time use, and they can give you an additional trick up your sleeve if a combat scenario isn't going your way. Some deal lightning damage to all enemies in a room, and others heal you whenever the charge meter is full. It's nothing you haven't seen before, but it fits very elegantly into Cult of the Lamb's DNA, and I don't think anyone will mind the inclusion. The NPC associated with these relics is also pretty amusing himself, and of all the new music they added to this game for this update, I have to say that his shop theme is my favorite. It's so tranquil and beautiful, serving as a great respite between fast-paced fights in the dungeons. If the new attacks and enemies were not enough to spice things up for you, be aware that there's also a permadeath mode now, so if that's your kind of thing, go wild. Thematically, the post-game storyline antagonists do a good job of differentiating themselves from the original ones. There's clearly a celestial vibe to them that's more sci-fi in tone, and I always appreciate when a DLC or update does a good job of setting up its own feel, even if the dungeon delving for this update will be in areas you've already been in. For better or worse, the gameplay loop is the same as when Cult of the Lamb first released. You'll still be plunging into dungeons, trying to do everything at a brisk pace because your followers are absolutely inept at taking care of themselves for 20 minutes without guidance, basically a Discord server. This actually does add a unique flair to levels, as you have to weigh how much time you want to spend exploring every room and smashing all pottery you find, versus getting to the dungeon boss and returning to your base as quickly as possible. Or at least, this would be unique flair if it wasn't so easy to fix everything at your base. While it is fun to douse all the fires at your home and make sure everything is in tip-top shape, I never felt as if I made a decision that caused big enough ramifications on myself and followers in the long run. There wasn't a moment where I had to choose between satisfying my own wants versus my cult's, at least not in a way that was meaningful. The solutions to problems that arise between members and the way your members view you are very surface level. Dissenters get locked up, people who are sick get sent to the medical bay, issues normally arise and get solved before the sun even sets. No one will harbor permanent grudges or spread some famine that will have a devastating impact on your group for generations to come. The real challenge isn't the complexity and impact of each individual situation, it's in the amount of stuff you have to juggle. I get it, but even with the sheer abundance of stuff I have to fix when I return from a run, it's all solved relatively quickly with what's basically a perimeter check. I can't say it isn't fun though. Massive Monster didn't set out to make the next Dwarf Fortress or anything. Even if the culture you create in your time with the game isn't infinitely complex or lasting, that's not the point. The base building and resource gathering serves as a fun supplement and break to the dungeon delving, both constantly swapping out for the other right before the previous overstays its welcome. Unapologetic in the inspiration it takes from mobile games to press your dopamine receptors. Things you can gather at your base all pop and plop with sound effects so satisfying you'd think the audio design was crafted just for you. Menus are littered with so much satisfying button confirms, I often felt like I was opening a digital pack of cards. With all of the new skills and unlockables you'll find with Relics of the Old Faith, it won't take long for you to rediscover this specific side of Cult of the Lamb in particular. Part of me wants to say it's overindulgent, but I've honestly come to love Massive Monster's loud and over-the-top presentation. It's impossible not to look at any side of this game and get immediately interested in what's happening, and I'm totally down for that. Cult of the Lamb Relics of the Old Faith is good. It's not transformative, nor will it make the game stand up in longevity next to something like The Binding of Isaac, but it is a show of really good faith that files down a lot of Lamb's rougher edges and makes the parts of it that were good much easier to appreciate. Whether it's a game you haven't touched before or you've donned the crown for some months now, there's never been a better time to dive in.